Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. Your support means the world to us and helps others discover stories that share clarity and inspiration on the path of self-discovery. Thank you so much. Let's begin.
Chapter 1. Solitude as the Companion of Greatness. The history of humanity preserves the names of those who dared to break free from the conventional, whose minds soared above the ordinary, leaving behind a trail that illuminated the path for generations to come. As we look at the biographies of these remarkable individuals, whether they are scientists, artists, philosophers, or inventors, we often discover one common, sometimes sorrowful trait: a deep sense of isolation, a solitude that became the involuntary companion of their genius. Think of Leonardo da Vinci, whose encyclopedic knowledge and pioneering ideas were far ahead of his time, making him a figure more enigmatic than fully understood by his contemporaries. Or recall Immanuel Kant, whose meticulous philosophical work required a secluded concentration, immersing him in a world of abstract ideas, far removed from the everyday hustle and bustle of his surroundings. Why, then, is it so often the case that an exceptional mind finds itself imprisoned in isolation? The answer lies in the very nature of profound and unconventional thinking. A genius sees the world not as most perceive it. They can grasp the subtlest interconnections, notice hidden patterns, and penetrate to the essence of things, while others merely skim the surface. Their inner dialogue takes place on a different level of complexity, operating with abstractions and concepts that are sometimes difficult to express in words that the general public can understand. Imagine a theoretical physicist working diligently on a complex formula that describes the fundamental laws of the universe. The beauty and harmony of this formula are revealed only to them, requiring a special kind of intellectual preparation and intuition. How can they convey this sense of wonder and deep understanding to someone far removed from the world of mathematics and physics? A barrier arises, caused by the difference in intellectual context and the level of abstract thinking. This alienation is rarely the result of a conscious choice on the part of the genius. More often, it becomes an inevitable consequence of their unique perspective on the world, their insatiable thirst for knowledge, which consumes them entirely, leaving little room for social conversation and superficial interactions. Their true conversation partners are books, scholarly works, and the unsolved mysteries of the universe. It is through intellectual exploration that they find true satisfaction and inspiration. Moreover, society is not always ready to accept and understand innovative ideas. History knows many examples where brilliant discoveries and groundbreaking concepts were met with mockery, misunderstanding, and even hostility. Recall Nicolaus Copernicus, whose heliocentric theory of the solar system was long considered heresy and sparked fierce debates. His scientific courage and the depth of his insight led him to a period of intellectual isolation and caution in revealing his views. However, it is often in this apparent solitude that the most fruitful ideas ripen. Away from the noise and hustle of the outside world, the mind is given the opportunity to focus, to delve deeper into a problem, to view it from different angles. Isolation becomes a kind of incubator for brilliant revelations, a time when inner silence fosters the birth of revolutionary concepts. So, if you have ever felt a sense of detachment, if your thoughts seem too complex or incomprehensible to most people around you, perhaps this is not a sign of your wrongness, but rather an indication that your mind operates on a different frequency, perceives the world from a broader perspective. Your solitude may not be a curse, but rather a side effect of your depth and originality. History teaches us that many great minds walked their own, often lonely, path, and in doing so, they illuminated the way for all of humanity. Chapter 2. Misunderstanding as the Price of Depth. Your inner world is an expansive and multifaceted territory, inhabited by complex ideas, subtle nuances of emotion, and unique perspectives that sometimes seem inaccessible to external observation. You are capable of seeing connections where others see only isolated fragments, feeling the shades of emotions that elude superficial perception. But how often does this rich inner universe remain a terra incognita for those around you? How often do your attempts to share your most cherished thoughts collide with a wall of misunderstanding? as if an invisible barrier separates you from the external world. This sense of misunderstanding can become one of the sharpest and most painful experiences for a person with a deep mind. When you attempt to verbalize a complex concept, share an unconventional idea, or express a subtle emotional movement, and all you receive in response is a bewildered look, a condescending smile, or, worse yet, outright disdain, a profound existential loneliness arises. Words lose their power, meaning becomes distorted, and the gulf between your inner world and the world of your interlocutor grows ever wider. As Arthur Schopenhauer said, genius lives in solitude, for it rarely finds equals and even more rarely finds understanding judges. This quote perfectly reflects the chasm that can emerge between an extraordinary mind and the average level of understanding. A genius sees farther, deeper, and their judgments are often based on intuition and insights that are difficult to explain logically to those who do not share the same level of intellectual development. Imagine a poet who spends sleepless nights crafting a complex metaphorical image, aiming to convey through it the full spectrum of human emotions, from the tormenting longing to fleeting joy. He shares his creation with a close person, hoping for an emotional response, for empathy, but hears only a dry, "I don't understand what this is about." At that moment, there arises not only disappointment, but also a deep sense of internal isolation, the feeling that the very essence of his creation remains invisible and misunderstood. Or imagine a scientist, eyes alight with passion, talking about his latest research, about the subtle experimental data that supports his bold hypothesis. He sees a whole picture of the universe in these numbers, but his listeners are distracted by their daily concerns, unable to share his intellectual excitement. This does not mean they are insensitive or foolish. It simply means their focus is directed elsewhere, and their intellectual interests lie on a different plane. The price of depth often lies in the fact that you perceive the world on a different frequency, in a different range. Your thought processes may be more intense, more layered, encompassing a broader spectrum of interconnections. You are interested in questions that seem abstract or philosophical to others. You notice details and nuances that escape the attention of the majority, and this fundamental difference in cognitive and emotional perception can become a source of profound alienation. Misunderstanding breeds not only frustration, but can also erode self-confidence. You begin to wonder, maybe my thoughts really are so disconnected from reality. Maybe I just can't express my ideas clearly. This self-doubt may lead to a reluctance to share your thoughts and feelings, to the fear of being misunderstood and rejected. However, as Johann Wolfgang von Goethe wisely noted, he who does not understand your silence is unlikely to understand your words. This thought reminds us that true understanding often goes beyond verbal communication. It requires a certain inner closeness, a similarity in worldview, and a willingness to empathize. If you often face misunderstanding, do not let this feeling drown out your inner voice. Instead, try to channel your energy into finding those who are capable of appreciating the depth of your inner world, who share your intellectual passions and emotional experiences. Remember that the search for like-minded individuals is an important step on the path to overcoming feelings of isolation and achieving intellectual and emotional resonance. Chapter 3. Social Barriers to Unconventional Thinking. Human society, in its striving for order and predictability, often erects invisible but very tangible barriers in the way of those who dare to think differently, those who venture beyond the conventional norms and beliefs. These barriers can manifest in various forms, from mild bewilderment and wariness to open rejection and even aggressive ostracism. How does one feel in this world when their mind seeks to explore the unknown, to search for complex and multifaceted answers, while the majority prefers simple and straightforward solutions? One of the most powerful social barriers is conformism, the deeply ingrained tendency of most individuals to conform to accepted standards of behavior and thinking. The social environment often encourages those who don't stand out, who share the dominant views, and don't ask uncomfortable questions. Unconventional thinking, on the other hand, is often perceived as a deviation, as a potential threat to the established social order. A person who dares to express original ideas or challenge commonly accepted dogmas risks facing isolation, condemnation, and even ostracism. As Bertrand Russell astutely observed, fear the mismatch, even if you are right. This quote highlights the social pressure that a person whose views differ from the majority opinion may experience. The fear of being misunderstood, ridiculed, or rejected can silence even the strongest minds or cause them to conceal their true beliefs, thereby deepening their sense of internal isolation. Another significant social barrier is the fear of the new and unknown. The human psyche, at its core, tends to be somewhat conservative, relying on the familiar and the tested. Unfamiliar ideas that go beyond learned experiences can provoke discomfort, anxiety, and even irrational fear. Intellectuals who propose innovative solutions or challenge established paradigms are often seen as destabilizing elements, as people whose ideas may disrupt the seemingly safe and familiar world. Furthermore, there is often a tendency in society to simplify thinking, to seek easy and definitive answers to complex and multifaceted questions. A deep analytical approach, the ability to see a problem from different perspectives, and the consideration of numerous factors. All of this may seem unnecessarily burdensome and exhausting to most. A person who possesses the ability for nuanced and critical thinking may encounter misunderstanding or even irritation from those who prefer a black and white view of the world, devoid of nuance and contradictions. We must also consider the influence of envy, a destructive emotion that arises when confronted with another's superiority, whether intellectual, creative, or otherwise. Instead of attempting to understand and appreciate unconventional thinking, some people may respond to it with hostility, seeking to diminish the achievements of others or find flaws in them. This can manifest in cynical remarks, gossip, or the ignoring of significant ideas. These social barriers can have a profound and negative impact on the emotional well-being of those with unconventional thinking. Constant encounters with misunderstanding, rejection, and even hostility can lead to feelings of loneliness, self-doubt, and even depressive states. A person may begin to question the validity of their views, feeling like an outcast in a society that, as they perceive it, is unwilling to accept them. However, as Albert Einstein wisely noted, great minds have always met with violent opposition from mediocre minds. This quote reminds us that innovative ideas and profound insights often go against established beliefs and may provoke negative reactions from those who cannot understand or accept them. If you feel that your unconventional thinking is creating social barriers for you, do not try to force yourself into the mold of accepted norms. Instead, direct your efforts toward finding those who are capable of appreciating your intellectual courage and depth of thought, those who share your thirst for knowledge and are open to honest and open dialogue. Remember, true value lies not in being like everyone else, but in remaining true to yourself despite social pressure and possible temporary loneliness. Chapter 4. In Search of Resonance. Why less is not enough. Your inner essence craves authentic communication, a sincere exchange of thoughts and feelings on a deep level. You seek for your words to not only reach the ears of your conversation partner, but also resonate in their soul, triggering both intellectual and emotional resonance. Superficial talks about the weather, empty gossip, discussions on trivial matters. All of these leave you with an inner vacuum and sometimes even evoke a growing sense of discomfort. Why does compromising with intellectual and emotional shallowness feel like a form of betrayal of your own depth? The fact is, your mind is structured in such a way that you need constant intellectual stimulation, the exchange of complex ideas and subtle nuances of perception. You seek conversation partners who can understand your metaphors, catch the hidden meaning of your reasoning, and appreciate the originality of your views. A conversation at a more primitive level seems not only uninteresting, but also a kind of intellectual downshifting, wasting precious time and energy without yielding any satisfaction or motivation for further growth. Think of Nikola Tesla, whose brilliant inventions in electrical engineering were decades ahead of their time. He was a man whose mind was constantly generating innovative ideas, whose thoughts were immersed in the world of electromagnetic waves and wireless energy transmission. Imagine how difficult it must have been for him to connect with people whose interests were limited to everyday mundane issues. His need to discuss his revolutionary concepts, to find intellectual resonance, was likely unfulfilled in most of his social interactions. His loneliness was not only physical but also intellectual. Few could understand and appreciate the scale of his vision. As Friedrich Nietzsche said, "He who does not want to belong to the masses should stop being condescending to himself." This quote emphasizes the importance of maintaining intellectual honesty and rejecting compromises that go against one's inner needs. The desire for deep communication is not a sign of arrogance, but rather a manifestation of respect for one's own mind and soul. The search for this resonance can be long and difficult. In a world saturated with information and superficial entertainment, finding someone capable of a deep and meaningful dialogue may seem like a utopian task. You may feel lonely in your pursuit of intellectual depth, wondering if there are any people who can truly understand and appreciate your inner world. However, this is no reason to abandon your needs and settle for intellectual fast food. Your desire for deep communication is evidence of your inner strength, intellectual maturity, and your thirst for genuine connections. It shows that you value intellectual honesty and are not willing to settle for surrogate conversations that do not nourish your mind or touch your heart. Instead of becoming disheartened by the lack of deep mutual understanding, direct your energy toward finding the few who share your intellectual passions and emotional experiences. Seek out interest-based communities, attend lectures and seminars, participate in discussion clubs, immerse yourself in reading books and articles that stimulate your thinking. Perhaps your like-minded individuals are very close by. You just haven't met them yet. Remember, the quality of communication is far more important than its quantity. It is better to have one or two close friends with whom you can have deep and meaningful conversations than 100 superficial acquaintances who cannot understand you on a truly profound level. Do not be afraid to be selective in your communication, and do not settle for compromises that go against your fundamental need for intellectual and emotional resonance. Your soul deserves to be heard and understood at the depth at which it vibrates. Chapter 5. Uniqueness as a Source of Strength. Your uniqueness is like a rare and precious gemstone, distinguished from all others by its unmatched brilliance, cut, and inner fire. It makes you different from others, endowing you with a special perspective on the world, the ability to generate original ideas, and feel depths inaccessible to many. However, this same uniqueness is sometimes felt as a heavy burden, a cause of alienation and misunderstanding from the surrounding world. So, how do you learn to accept your difference? Stop seeing it as a source of isolation and recognize it as an inexhaustible source of inner strength. Often from childhood, we are taught to strive for conformity, to be like everyone else, not to stand out from the crowd. Social norms and unwritten rules push us to abandon our individuality in exchange for an illusory sense of belonging and security. However, true strength and real value lie precisely in our uniqueness, in our ability to see the world through the lens of our own distinct experience and bring something new, original into it. Think of Vincent van Gogh, whose paintings, filled with a riot of colors and expressive brushstrokes, were completely out of step with the artistic tastes of his time. His unique vision of the world, his ability to convey emotions through color and form, went largely unnoticed during his lifetime. He experienced deep loneliness, failing to find understanding and recognition for his innovative talent. Yet today, his works are regarded as some of the greatest masterpieces, and his unique style continues to inspire millions of people worldwide. His loneliness was paradoxically inseparable from his genius. As Oscar Wilde wisely said, "Be yourself. Everyone else is already taken." This concise phrase contains a deep truth. True strength and self-realization are possible only when we dare to be ourselves, despite societal expectations and potential misunderstanding. Yes, your uniqueness can lead to feelings of loneliness. Not everyone has the broadness of vision and emotional maturity to accept and understand what differs from the familiar and the conventional. Not everyone is capable of appreciating the depth of your thoughts and the subtlety of your feelings. But this is not a sign of your wrongness. Rather, it signifies that you are on a different level of intellectual and emotional development, that your inner world is richer and more complex than that of many others. Instead of wasting precious energy trying to fit yourself into someone else's mold, embrace your uniqueness as your greatest strength. It is your unconventional thinking that allows you to see possibilities where others only see dead ends. It is your depth of feeling that makes you more empathetic and capable of forming deeper and more meaningful connections, even if their number is small. It is your different perspective on the world that can lead you to innovative discoveries and achievements in various areas of life. Embrace your solitude not as a curse or punishment, but as a precious time for self-discovery and inner growth. In silence and solitude, you have a unique opportunity to better understand yourself, your true desires, values, and goals. You can focus on developing your unique talents and abilities without being distracted by the noise and bustle of the external world. Solitude can become fertile ground for deep inner work, for finding your own, one-of-a-kind path in life. As Ralph Waldo Emerson wisely noted, to be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest achievement. Strive for this achievement. Do not be afraid to be yourself. Do not fear your difference. Your uniqueness is not a burden, but your most valuable gift, one that will inevitably find its recognition and application in this world. Chapter 6. Finding your own among strangers. The feeling of loneliness, born from deep intellect and unconventional thinking, can be tormenting, but it is not a sentence. While the search for like-minded individuals may seem like a difficult task in a world dominated by superficiality and conformity, the possibility of finding those who can understand and appreciate your uniqueness still exists. The question is only where and how to find these kindred spirits who are capable of sharing your intellectual and emotional world. The first and perhaps most important step on this path is fully accepting your own uniqueness. As long as you do not accept and love yourself with all your quirks, it will be hard to project this confidence into the world and attract people who can appreciate your true value. Stop seeing your difference as a flaw and begin to see it as your strength, your special feature. Remember that it is your distinctiveness that makes you interesting and attractive to those who seek depth and authenticity in communication. The second important step is to actively seek environments where you can meet like-minded people. Instead of lamenting the lack of understanding in your familiar surroundings, expand your horizons. Attend lectures, seminars, and workshops on topics that truly excite you. Join interest-based clubs, online communities, forums, where people gather to discuss intellectual questions, art, science, philosophy, everything that resonates with your soul. It is in such places that the likelihood of meeting people with a similar mindset and level of intellectual development significantly increases. As Carl Gustav Jung said, loneliness does not come from the absence of people around you, but from the inability to communicate with those who understand what you consider important. This quote reminds us that true closeness does not arise from the physical presence of others, but from the depth of mutual understanding and shared values. The third strategy is to be open to new acquaintances, but remain true to yourself. Do not try to artificially adapt to the interests of others if they are alien to you. Sincerity and authenticity are the qualities that attract truly like-minded people. Be ready to share your thoughts and feelings, but do so selectively, finding those who show genuine interest and are ready for a deep dialogue. The fourth piece of advice is not to be afraid to take the initiative in communication. If you feel that you have met someone who interests you, do not wait for them to take the first step. Show initiative. Suggest discussing an interesting topic. Share your point of view. Ask a profound question. Sometimes, to find a kindred spirit, you need to show courage and step out of your comfort zone. The fifth strategy is to develop your ability to empathize and listen. Deep communication is a two-way street. Be not only ready to share your thoughts, but also genuinely interested in the inner world of others. The ability to listen and understand someone else's point of view, even if it differs from yours, can be the key to forming deep and meaningful connections. Finally, remember that the search for like-minded individuals is a process that can take time. Do not despair if you do not find your people right away. Be patient, keep searching, remain open to new opportunities, and believe that sooner or later, you will meet those who will truly appreciate the richness of your inner world. Your desire for deep communication and intellectual resonance will eventually lead you to those who share your values and are capable of understanding you on the deepest level. Chapter 7. Turning isolation into a source of inner strength. Loneliness, especially when it results from deep intellect and unconventional thinking, is often perceived as something negative, a burden that must be shed. However, if we look at this phenomenon from another perspective, we may discover that periods of isolation can become not only a time of emotional sorrow, but also a powerful catalyst for personal growth and the acquisition of inner strength. So, how can we learn to see loneliness not as a curse but as a valuable opportunity for self-discovery and development? First of all, loneliness provides a unique opportunity for deep self-reflection. Away from the noise and hustle of the external world, from constant interactions with others, you gain space and time to look inside yourself, to explore your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs without external pressure and judgment. This time can be used to better understand your true desires and goals, to examine your strengths and weaknesses, and to become aware of your life path. As Hermann Hesse wrote, "I realized that the most important thing for me is to learn to love the world within myself, to be firm in my own world, and to seek the outer world only as far as my inner strength allows me to do so." This quote emphasizes the importance of a person's inner world as a source of strength and stability. Loneliness can become the very time when we can strengthen this inner world. Secondly, isolation can become fertile ground for the development of creative abilities and the deepening of knowledge. Many great works of art, scientific discoveries, and philosophical treatises were created during periods of solitude and focused work. The absence of external distractions allows you to fully immerse yourself in an area of interest, concentrate on solving complex problems, and give free rein to your imagination and intuition. Think of Isaac Newton, whose fundamental discoveries in physics, including the law of universal gravitation, were made during a period of forced isolation due to the plague. Removed from his usual environment, he was able to fully dedicate himself to his scientific research, which led to revolutionary breakthroughs in the understanding of the universe. His isolation became the catalyst for his genius. Thirdly, loneliness can contribute to the development of independence and self-confidence. When you spend time alone with yourself, you learn to rely on your own abilities, make independent decisions, and find answers to your questions within yourself. This strengthens your self-esteem and makes you less dependent on the opinions of others. You begin to understand that your inner foundation is the most reliable support in life. Fourthly, periods of isolation can help you reassess your relationships with others. Being away from your usual circle of communication, you can more objectively evaluate the quality of these connections, understand which ones are truly important and valuable to you, and which ones are rather a burden or the result of habit. This can lead to a more conscious choice of your social circle in the future. Finally, it is important to remember that loneliness does not necessarily mean complete separation from the world. It is rather an opportunity for a temporary pause, for restoring internal resources, for gathering strength and inspiration before new stages of life and new encounters. This time can be used to recharge your batteries, to return to the world renewed and with a clearer understanding of your place in it. So, if you are going through a period of loneliness, try to see it not only as a difficulty, but also as a potential opportunity for growth and self-development. Use this time to better understand yourself, deepen your knowledge, develop your talents, and acquire inner strength. Remember that even in isolation, you are not alone. Beside you is always your own rich inner world, full of unexplored possibilities. Chapter 8. Self-acceptance. Our journey is coming to an end. We have explored the complex and multifaceted connection between intellect and isolation, trying to understand why great minds often walk through life feeling separated from the majority of people. We talked about misunderstanding as the inevitable price of deep thought, about the social barriers society sometimes erects against unconventional thinking, and about the inner longing for deep resonance that prevents us from settling for superficial interaction. We also considered the uniqueness inherent in deep intellect as both a source of strength and potential loneliness. But most importantly, we tried to see in periods of isolation not only a difficulty, but also a valuable opportunity for self-discovery, the development of creative abilities, and the acquisition of inner strength. Now, standing at the threshold of the conclusion of our reflection, it is important to reiterate, if you have ever felt lonely in a crowd, if your thoughts seemed too complex or incomprehensible to others, know that this is not necessarily a sign of your wrongness. Perhaps it signifies the depth of your inner world, your ability to see further and feel more deeply than many others. Your loneliness may not be a curse, but a side effect of your uniqueness, your unconventional perspective on the world. Do not let the feeling of isolation break your spirit. Instead, embrace your individuality as a precious gift, as the source of your strength and potential. Do not try to forcibly fit into other people's molds or meet their expectations. Remember, your path may not be like most others, but it is precisely this path that may lead you to new discoveries and accomplishments. Continue on your journey of self-discovery, deepen your knowledge, and develop your unique talents. Use periods of solitude as opportunities for inner work and gaining clarity. And most importantly, never stop searching for those who are capable of understanding and appreciating the depth of your inner world. Your kindred spirits do exist, and sooner or later, you will find them. Look for them in interest-based communities, in books, in art, in philosophical musings, anywhere kindred souls come together in pursuit of true knowledge and deep conversation. Believe in yourself, in your uniqueness, in your ability to find your own path, and meet those who will walk it alongside you. Do not settle for less than deep understanding and sincere resonance. Your inner universe deserves to be explored and valued to the fullest. And remember, you are not alone in your pursuit of greater things. Many great minds in history walked their own, often difficult path, but it was their unique vision of the world that ultimately enriched all of humanity. Perhaps your path, no matter how lonely it sometimes seems, leads to something great. Do not lose hope. Keep searching. Stay true to yourself, and you will surely find your own light in this world.
Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and leave a like if this video resonated with you. Thank you for being with us and for listening till the end. There's so much more here that we hope will inspire and motivate you. With gratitude, until next time.